Hello, friends and listeners, party people. Welcome back to another episode of Party XP. I'm your host, Lakan, and joining me once again is Buffa for the next episode here again.
Hello, everyone.
I'm going to get rid of him after this one. We'll put him to the backyard, old Yeller Room. But for now, he's here.
Until Jeff comes back, I'm here permanently.
There you go. So Buffa's the replacement now. Is that the contract now? You're rewriting the terms of our agreement?
I mean, that's what I'm getting paid for, I think. Wait, am I getting paid?
So, for this week...
I thought we were monetized.
Barely. It's fun. It's fun. It's still, at this point, it's still kind of
I want my cut of that quarter.
I'll buy you lunch next time. I appreciate you for coming through again. I really do.
Lunch.
Yeah. But yeah, like, again, thanks for coming through again for another conversational episode. I wanted to get you in for another episode here because, you know, for my first episode with you, we did the movie episode, right? Which involves me mostly talking through the movie, which, you know, I eat up a lot of the time there because I'm doing the movie plot summary kind of thing. And then, of course, we had a decent conversation during during your episode, during the Jet Set episode, right?
Right.
And, you know, and again, we have, again, another conversation during the Toys to Life. And it's like, it would be nice to have another episode with you actually, like, you and me actually having a proper conversation, you know, now kind of even more free than the previous one. Because we had a little bit of a structure for the Toys to Life episode. We had a lot of things we were looking up. And for this one, this is also a topic that you and me...
this is more a passion project.
Yeah, like this is like something that we've very, very much so dove into. We've mentioned it on the previous episodes where you and me do like retro video game hunts basically together, right? I mean, yeah. I'm sure you have other friends you roll with as well too, right?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. I used to do it with my brother, a couple other people, but it's mostly you now. You know, you're the only one without a life like me.
Yeah, because oh no. And now I'm sad. But yeah, you know, so Buff and myself are currently single. We have adult jobs.
And mingling.
We have adult jobs, we have adult money, and we can kind of just do whatever we want with it. And, you know, we mentioned it before, it's like, you know, I think it was the first episode, we were talking about like having video games physically and having the manual and looking at stuff, especially when you're driving home as a kid, right?
Right.
And, you know, like now as an adult, I mean, like, again, I'm kind of like looking back to fill up my collections and, you know, kind of get the games that I never got when I was a kid, and I have most of my old consoles still. So it's like, oh, then I'm gonna go ahead and buy the old games that I never could get and play them now. And that's kind of like, you know, and that is like again like another thing that me and Buffett just kind of started doing. I don't know, how long ago did we start doing this now?
It's a couple years. I think a little before the pandemic started, so maybe 2019, 2020-ish.
Yeah, because I remember like 2019, I think we had probably like a couple sessions where you were mostly hunting for stuff.
Or like we definitely talked about going out and getting games, or like, you know, we would go to a store here and there. But then I think when stuff started opening up again, that's when we were like, okay, we're gonna hit a bunch of stores today.
Yeah. I remember like our first like real hunt started like in the like late 2020, early 2021,
right?
Because also one of the retro shops opened up nearby us, like super close to us.
Yeah, like the town over.
Yeah, so we were able to like just go on a whim. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, oh, I feel like going today. Why not? Hey, Buffy, you free? Let's go.
Yeah, and luckily in our area, there's at least like five game stores within like a 10-mile radius.
There's a couple of stores nearby us that are around like 10-mile radius or so, and
yeah, I mean 20-30 minutes, like
that's fine.
Tops. Yeah.
It's Jersey. We're used to driving everywhere, basically, right? And then we've even gone to the like the northern part of Jersey and the southern part of Jersey as well too. Yep. So we've done like the whole day session before, where we're just like jumping around from shop to shop, which is, you know, pretty fun. Like you know, obviously there's a lot of time in the car. We just shoot the shit. We kind of jam out to music a little bit, right?
Right.
And we talk about what we have found or haven't found recently too. That's another fun thing for us.
Yeah, and I think for me at least, the whole part is hunting for this stuff. I know back when I was a kid, I wasn't buying video games like at the stores. I was mostly going to flea markets because for the longest time, all we had was an Atari and a Nintendo Entertainment System. So probably by the time I was old enough to like realize what money was and like purchasing things, it was probably like 94, 95.
Okay.
So then by that time, it's like, oh, the Super Nintendo and the Genesis and stuff like that are already out. So I wasn't finding Nintendo games as, you know, available. So it's mostly flea markets, and plus, like at flea markets, the games are like $5, $10, as opposed to cheaper. You know, going to a store and paying $40, $50.
Yeah, especially back then where everything was cartridges. A lot of people like found them annoying after a certain point because they just eat up a lot of space.
And I think at the time, people didn't realize that this stuff would be like collectible.
Yeah.
They thought it was like any other fad, or oh, this is taking space up in my house. Like my kids don't play this anymore. Like the kids moved out and left it here, so I'm just gonna sell it, get $5. There's like 20 cartridges, $5.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
just
$100.
get rid of it. Exactly. Yeah, and unfortunately, I think in our town, even though there's a lot of like garage sales and yard sales that kind of happen here, unfortunately, I think a lot of that stuff has kind of been taken out already at this point. Like, like I swing by them every time I see them. And it's like toys mostly, but never, like very, very seldom do I find like used video games here anymore now.
I actually think a lot of people were throwing that stuff out. I know one of my friends was a garbage man in town for a little, and he was like, "Oh, I found like an N64 out here with the controllers and like everything." And I'm like, "Really?"
It's
and he was like, "Oh, I like took it because I'm like, oh, it's in the garbage."
Yeah, because it's like, and then you take the shot if it's broken or not, just plug it in, why not give it a shot, and if it works, boom, you got yourself a free console.
Yeah.
And it was just wild, yet people are throwing them away instead of even trying to sell them. It's kind of like a sad bit of consumer culture, I guess, especially back then too, right? Where there's like, oh, it's broken or no one uses it anymore, it's useless. Yeah, just get rid of it. You know what I mean? Like which is also not great for the collectors, obviously, because that's just one thing out of the stock, one thing out of the pool that we can no longer get back, basically.
Right. And I mean, a lot of those like early Nintendo games did, sell a lot of copies and stuff. But like if people were throwing them away or they were broken or not, like you said, the pool is drying up slowly.
Yeah, and we absolutely see that, especially with the trends over time. Where I mean, it's, no matter what, within with inflation and like again the pool slowly drying over time, there's always going to be that slow rise in terms of pricing. And then we felt it really, really hard the last couple of years, where there was like a hard jump. Mostly during the pandemic time, kind of like everything else collectible, right around that time, kind of just jumped because everyone got a little bit of extra money.
Everyone had a little extra money from the stimulus checks, and
they're stuck at home, so they're like, oh, well, I'm going to buy some stuff for myself.
Or they were cleaning out their stuff, and it's like, oh, they had this stuff, didn't realize how much it was, sold it, and then got extra money to go repurpose it somewhere else.
Yeah. So it's like the last couple of years have been really, really wonky in terms of like art. Unfortunately, this is like when I got really into the hobby with Buffa.
Same thing with like TCG.
Yeah, anything trading card. Yeah, for the most part, for the most of the trading card games anyway, from my understanding, like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh got pretty high up there. Luckily for me, I'm a Magic the Gathering player, so it didn't climb too hard. Had a little bit of a bump, but nothing crazy. How about you for you? Because I know you do Pokemon as well, right?
Yeah, so a little before the pandemic, I was like, oh, I was interested in getting some of the original set of cards because I was like, oh, reminded me of my childhood. Same thing with like the video games.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, and, so I started buying a couple of those, and then everything got shut down, and then the Pauls, I think.
Yeah, the Logan. Yeah,
were the first ones to open up like that box on stream or whatever.
Yeah, it was just sealed like original shadowless cards, basically.
And then ever since that happened,
everything just shot up. It just everything came insane. And then in terms of video games anyway, what was it? It was WATA was like one of the things, right? They sold that Super Mario for like $3 million or some bullshit.
Right.
And then what was the other one? They sold like 2 games that were like insanely way overpriced. And then they got found out that they were like fixing the prices, obviously, right?
Well, how do you feel about grading in general in terms of cards and video games?
So it's weird because part of me is like, yeah, I like preserving collectibles, right? There's a part of me that likes that side of like preserving and especially video games. For me, that's a big thing. It's like, as long as the video games don't die or disappear off the face of the earth, right?
Right.
Because unfortunately, there are some games that I don't know, whatever company that developed it, they don't no longer exist. The file for that game has been deleted. That game is no longer.
There's copyrights that they can't make this game anymore.
Yeah, they can't make it anymore, and so you have to go around finding a physical copy. And good luck, some random game that you liked back when you were 4 or 5, but they only made 500,000 copies of it. How many of those do you think got thrown away? Have fun trying to find one of those. You know what I mean?
Right.
So in terms of preservation, yeah, I appreciate that part of the whole collecting and grading stuff. You know what I mean? But then in terms of video games, for me, it's no, games are meant to be played.
Yeah. That's
my opinion on it anyway. I know other people are gonna say no, you still. It's like a presentation. It's like the package, the carton. You know what I mean? All that. I'm like, I don't know. For the most part, I basically open up all my games and just play them for the most part. In terms of cards and collecting, that's like stamps to me. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, why not preserve something that is really nice? You know what I mean? It's essentially a small piece of artwork.
Well, you said you play Magic mostly. I feel like I don't see as many Magic cards getting graded. Do you feel like that's because mostly Magic is meant to be played as opposed to Pokemon that's like
because
is more of a collector base or like back when we were kids, no one knew
no
how to
one
play
knew
the
how to play the game.
Pokemon card game.
Yeah, like we didn't learn how to even us, like we didn't learn how to really play the game until
we were in college.
Yeah, when we had a little bit of free time, had a little extra money on our side.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? We'll buy we one day
A couple decks here.
We'll go buy starter
packs.
decks and just mess around. So yeah, I think that's a big thing too. Like like in terms of like Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, those are like Yu-Gi-Oh gets played more, I think for sure. But but in terms of like collecting, yeah, there's definitely like a market specifically around those for just collecting those cards. There's like a hype factor to those basically, especially nostalgia, right? I think with Magic the Gathering, because it was around a little bit longer than both of those games, and the crowd for those seems to be a little bit older. I think that's why there's not as much of a hype collector scene around them basically, right? Which kind of throws me off a little bit for there's a newer card games like I've seen MetaZoo a lot recently, and there's like another. Like Vice Schwartz, those are really popular because I think those are they make collaborations with basically everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why those are pretty popular because I saw an Adventure Time deck and then I saw a Sailor Moon deck and I have a Hololive deck. You know what I mean? It's every whatever show you think of that can be popular or whatever property they will collab with. And from I don't know if those are limited runs or not, but that I know for those also have a value to them as well too. Kind of I guess want to say if I would say anything that's probably closer to Yu-Gi-Oh, where there is a player base and a collector base kind of combined into one versus Pokemon, which is mostly just people collecting cards.
Yeah.
And again,
I mean, I kind of have I guess back to the original topic, I have a problem, I guess, with grading games because, like you said,
they're meant to be played.
I do feel like they should be played.
Yeah, and again, unfortunately, if people do want to grade them, whatever. If it's your property, do whatever you want with it. But the current organizations around them are not exactly great.
I couldn't see myself buying a graded game.
No, I would be the if I do it, I'm gonna do it to send a message and open the thing up myself. Just run because I remember
just take like a piggy bank and
not even good opening it. You know what I mean? Just cut the corner with a knife. You know what I mean? Don't even cut with cut the little tabs open. Whatever. Yeah, because I remember I saw a video of what is it? I think it was LTT unboxed a couple of old N64 that were still boxed up basically.
Right.
And I think they opened up ones that were already open because they got kind of some heat from the community of from the collector community of don't open the sealed ones. Don't do that. You know what I mean? It's well, why? Because now
I can understand that because why are you going to spend the money on it? You buy a sealed copy of Majora's Mask. Why are you going to open it when you could have spent a fraction of the price to buy and open
to
Majora's
send
Mask?
a message,
I guess,
and make other people angry.
It's your money.
Yeah, and it's my property now, so I'm going to open it.
There is that fresh book smell. So I mean, if you want to get that high.
Yeah, it's just very similar energy, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because I'm hypocritical, right? Because I do own a couple sealed things still, right? You know what I mean? It's I mean, I already have a copy of the game, so why not, right? You know what I mean? I found one sealed.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with sealed or
but graded,
stuff.
I think is a weird thing for me. That's something that I don't really fall in line with. I think.
Yeah, because most of the sealed stuff, like you said, I have 2 copies of.
Yeah, it's I already have a copy, one for myself, one to play with, and then one is okay, let me hold on to it. Let me see if it goes. That is weird because it's Dwight. It is it's kind of like stocks, kind of like gambling. He's okay, one of this jumps up in value kind of thing, and we kind of have those safety things where it's we basically know anything in Nintendo is going to maintain value. Okay, listen. Okay, we're back.
Mid-sentence.
Listeners, we're back. Sorry, there's an awkward cut there. Sorry, something came up. Gross. Yeah. So what was it? Encouragers are I'm not with the whole grading games to be sealed and stuff. Maybe consoles is a little bit weird, but because I don't know. How do you feel about consoles though?
I've actually never seen anyone get a console graded.
Yeah, I've seen them sealed. I see them online, especially on eBay. I see a lot of those getting sold now.
I think that's another thing of you buy a special edition just for that.
Maybe that's a little bit different.
If I bought there was a a ton of special edition 3DSs, like different styles, different from different games and stuff.
One
like
of mine.
Right, like so if you bought that, if you had like one that you're playing stuff with, and you bought this one specifically, oh, I'm gonna get this graded. Like I want it in a really nice display. I guess I understand that.
Yeah, because I remember what is it? A couple weeks ago, we went to the one really close to us, and they had a sealed Galaxy backed 3DS,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Where the fuck did that come from?" He's like, "Yeah, some lady bought it for her kid." The guy at the shop was like, "Yeah, some lady bought it for her kid. He went, he grew up, went to college, never like even opened it." I was like, "So she just sold it back to us." And it was like, I would kind of just want to buy it myself.
It is
just
weird
crack it open
hearing
myself.
some of these stories of seeing people trade in some like rare stuff. Or It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I bought it for my kid for Christmas, or his birthday, but he was bad, so I hid it in the closet. Didn't
Forgot
remember
about it
for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those weird things that like we get to experience doing these like video game hunts, like in the stores we get to
Hearing interesting trade stories.
Yeah, yeah. Like a couple months ago, I think it was
Well, I guess one of our friend Matt Aspera's parents hid his N64 they
Yeah.
got right
Yeah,
for
yeah,
Christmas,
and he just
and he had an N64. In the
didn't
house.
even realize he had it, basically, kind of thing, right? What was it? I remember a couple.
We probably should have told him not to open.
Probably, yeah. We should have said hold on to it. We could have made a little bit of money off of that. What is it? Oh yeah. So like one of the shops I went to, a dude sold in like a whole Tupperware bin full of like PS1 games, and fortunately they were water damaged. And I mean like the games obviously weren't, but like the discs weren't. But like the all the manuals,
Yeah.
like anything paper basically was ruined. And I remember like the guy, the guy at the shop, same shop, was telling me that the guy who was selling it to me was like complaining that we were giving him a whole lot of money for the games, because that's where like another thing of like the value comes in here, right? Like now it's like the main three components, right? It's the game, the manual, and the box.
Yeah.
Right. That's the three main pieces that kind of like determine the value or what you can get or what you can buy a game for, right? Breaking it down at least for the most part.
It's similar to like any other media. Like you're not gonna buy a record if it like, or you
If
might
it's
not buy it
scratched.
if the disc is warped, or
Yeah.
the outside cover's like ripped, or
if you're especially if you're collecting for like your own sake and for your collection, you want everything to look nice. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
one of those things.
especially with some of the prices on this stuff. Like if you were gonna buy like a signature thing, you want the signature to look
To look
like really nice,
genuinely clean.
Blah, blah,
And I mean, luckily for me, like I've gotten a couple things on like a good deal because I've got like I bought when my brother bought me the Misadventures of Tron Bon. He got one for me for $200 cheaper than the last time we saw it because the front and back cover, because it's one sheet, right, just folded over, it was off the staple. It was ripped off the staples, but it's still in one piece. It's just no longer attached to the rest of the instruction of the in-game manual kind of thing. It's like I don't care. That's for my collection. I just want this game.
And luckily, like with like the PS1 jewel cases and the Dreamcast cases, like you could swap those out. Like,
Yeah, anything in a jewel case is pretty easy to do, basically. But of course, then anything that had a cardboard case or like those weird plasticky kind of like VHS style cassette ones.
yeah, like a lot of the original Nintendo
Yeah.
boxes, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, like all those were like very cheap cardboard.
Yeah, cardboard, and then but they came with the sleeve. I remember they came with like a little
So if you didn't
the black
like-
and red Nintendo sleeve on there.
Yeah, if you didn't protect the actual cardboard box.
You got just demolished basically,
Right.
and most people, from my understanding, just threw those away.
Yeah.
I don't know many people who have like a physical collection who still have like the boxes for those.
Yeah.
Even for me, like my brother and I, we have a couple like Sega Genesis games that are still in box somehow, and I'm like, why did we keep this in the box? You know what I mean?
I know, so like the Genesis switched the boxes so that it was like that heavy, like plastic.
Yeah, that is again like the VHS plastic essentially almost, right?
Right. Like
the-
some of them still had like the old cardboard, but a lot of them were the
Yeah,
plastic.
like I think of like the Disney VHSs. Remember how those had the really thick plastic on those kind of
Right.
things, or like the Pokemon the first movie had like that like plastic like like VHS holder. Like that's what I think of like for the Sega one specifically, and some of the Super Nintendo, I think. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, so like diving a little bit more into this topic again, like so as you guys know, we're talking about the retro hunting. When we started going, when did you start actually hunting?
So I guess I guess I've always enjoyed the physical media back when I was a kid. Like, obviously we didn't know things would turn digital, but like I guess that's just what I was always used to, going to flea markets, finding like a game.
So even when you were like young,
right? And then like 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
Like I remember, I guess one of my earliest memories of getting like games was, we had like a pretty decent amount of Nintendo games. We had like the main stuff. We had Mario 2, Turtles 1, stuff like that.
Mm.
And then like my uncle came over and he was like, "Oh, one of my coworkers was gonna like throw away all these Nintendo games, because the kid didn't play with him anymore." So he was like, "Oh, like I asked if I could have them." She gave them to me. It was like 50 games.
So you just jumped your collection basically,
right?
In there.
Yeah. So, and it was just like all different things. Like there was Zelda, there was like Gyromite, the other turtle games. So that. And like it felt really cool being like, oh, we have like 70 Nintendo games now.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, because that was a lot of us too. We used to go to Funko Land a lot. Was that a chain? Or was that just like a single shop?
Funko Land was a chain, but
okay, because we only had the one near here. Like
yeah, well, obviously, like the world feels so much bigger when you're like 6 years old. So
yes,
driving like 3 towns over to go to a Funko Land felt like it was a giant ordeal, even though it was like 10 minutes away.
Yeah. Because like I remember going there and like for the most part my parents always bought like the games that were still like new. I don't know why.
Right.
Because there was a bin always there of like pre-owned games that again like back then, especially then, like no one knew value. You know what I mean? They were just kind of getting rid of stuff kind of thing, right?
And I feel like people back then thought like, oh, you're gonna upgrade, so you went from the Nintendo to the Super Nintendo to the N64 kind of thing.
Because
it
was treated like tech. That's why.
Right. It was treated like, oh, I'm not gonna have this VHS player now that I have a DVD player. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so they got rid of all that stuff. But
Yeah, and looking back at it now, it's like, why did we do it? Why did we do all of that or any of that? We just destroyed or just threw away shit, basically. Luckily for me, we never threw away stuff. In terms of
did you used to trade games like to Funko Land? Like, because I know. Like with some NES stuff, after we kind of figured out, like, oh, this is a good game, this is a bad game. We took
we kept everything. We kept trash. We kept good games, just everything. We never kept them in packaging, unfortunately. But we just collected a bunch of those those paper / plastic Nintendo sleeves. That's all we did. Just we had something to cover up the pins, basically.
My problem was when I got like a little older, like middle school, high school ish, like. I didn't have much money, so if I wanted a new game, I had to trade like a couple games. That's why, like now, I was like, oh, I got to refill out my collection of stuff that I wanted.
The thing is, you also had an older brother who like used to buy with him a lot, right? That was kind of like your guys' thing.
Yeah. Luckily, he was like buying a lot of the new stuff. But like if there was like a specific game I wanted, or like I'm like, oh, I want this game because he was in college. And
he can get it, and he'd have a little extra money for you as well too.
Yeah, kind of deal.
Yeah, so for me and my brother, we're only a year apart, so we kind of were like, be good, maybe get straight A's, we can get a game. You know what I mean? And then like we'll get one on our birthdays as well each. Mm-hmm. And then we went to the Philippines and bought a bunch of bootlegs because this is like anytime you leave the U.S., especially back in the day, you just buy bootlegs. I have friends who are like Thai, Vietnamese, like Eastern European friends who are like, yeah, no, we go to like some sort of bazaar or mall or like a street market, some dude selling games in in a big old binder kind of thing, like remember those big CD binders kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing about like stuff getting destroyed. I know my brother has like a giant Dreamcast collection, but he got rid of all the cases because back in the 2000s we were obsessed with CD holders.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, I'm just gonna put like all the Dreamcast games in a CD holder. Why do I need the cases?
These so much space anyway, so let's get rid of all of them. It's like, why do we do this?
And now he's like, that's like
really kicking myself on this.
$5,000 I threw in the trash, basically.
And then like so like and I think like in terms of like viewing it as a collection, I don't think I viewed it as a collection back then. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh, we just bought a bunch of games because they were super cheap. And we just see maybe one of these is good, one of these is not. You know what I mean? And that happened to be the case pretty often where a lot of games were not that great. And then we find like a gem. Like we learned of Metal Gear Solid when we went to the Philippines. You know what I mean? Like so it's like, okay, so that we were like 9 or 10 or so when we went there when we got it. So it's like, oh yeah, because we found a gem. I
guess back when I was younger, like I always viewed it as like a collection because I would organize it like alphabetically or stuff like that?
No, for us we had them like in like kind of one of these little like stands, like these little like shelved stands kind of things.
Yeah.
But we never organized it. We kind of had them in there just with the labels up so we could see what we were playing, and that was really it. We never really I never really looked at it as like specifically like a collection, because at the time I collected baseball cards, and those I was kind of aware like this is a collection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For these are just my games, and then like only when I got older is when I realized, oh no, these are things we were actively collecting these, even if we weren't thinking about them as like a collectible item specifically. And that's actually why I got into video game collecting. A little bit over time, right? Because so like my brother and I both worked at GameStop, and you worked at GameStop as well too. I think we mentioned that as well in the previous episode.
I think everybody who comes on this channel has worked at GameStop, give or take.
At some point, right? Even if it's just seasonal.
Yeah.
Maybe not Jeff or Jeff Fernandez.
Yeah.
Not co-host. Co-host Jeff was there for sure. Was John ever at GameStop?
No, he wasn't. But
he wasn't.
Adjacent.
He's adjacent.
Your brother.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Most of the people we mentioned, in our friend group has been at GameStop at some point. But he was there, and I was there, like, occasionally for like seasonal work or whatever. And I would just go there and buy a couple games, because especially over the holidays, because like, okay, well, I have a little extra money. I'm here working the holidays anyway. I have the employee discount. Yeah, fill out my collection a little bit now. You know what I mean? And especially after a certain point, we had a bunch of our games stolen. You know what I mean? Like people took the games out of the cases, like just the discs basically. Left us the manual, the case, and that's it. So we're like around like I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, but like when I was like midway through college, or maybe just getting out of college, I started like looking for like just buying the games back from like GameStop or like small local, like any small like game shop we could find, because there were a couple still around here, but maybe we just never knew of them, or I never knew of them anyway until we started actually traveling around together. But I was like now at that point again when I was in both, we're all in college. It's like now I'm looking at this stuff as a collection, because like this was something that I had and now I no longer have it. It's no longer complete, and I want to like rebuild it again. That's when I started really looking at it as a collectible thing, because it's like, oh no, I just want this to be like complete again.
I feel like more and more collectible stores are popping up because, people do enjoy this stuff, like, video game collecting, statue collecting,
there's a big,
cards.
Yeah,
so
it's like nostalgia thing here.
So I feel like you do see more and more shops popping up, but I kind of got back into collecting after college because of working at GameStop. Like,
okay. Because you're there all the time anyway. You're always talking about video games.
Yeah, always talking about video games. Like, I've always had like a good Super Nintendo collection, but I was one of those people, I think when I kept my GameCube games when I got the Wii, but then like when I stopped playing the Wii, I was like, oh, I don't need all this stuff, and I think I was mostly like pushing more money into like my Xbox 360 and buying games for that, so I ended up like trading all that stuff. So when I started working at GameStop and we started taking retro stuff again, I noticed
that was relatively recent-ish, right?
Well, back in like 2014, 15, it wasn't talked about a lot, but like you could trade in retro stuff,
okay.
But it was only like certain stuff. Like they weren't taking copies of Madden 97, but they were taking like most GameCube stuff, most like rare Super
bigger
Nintendo.
bigger
name stuff. Like they were taking like the Earthbounds or the Marios.
The non-yearly release games, basically.
Yeah, so I was like, I saw like we had in the back like 6 GameCube games. I was like, oh, I need all those, and I was like, oh. I had the employee discount and,
used game.
Yeah, pro member discount. And I was like, oh, I got like a $50 coupon. So I was like, oh, I'm going to buy all
I'm
those.
taking all of these.
Right. And they all had the manuals. They were all like in the original cases.
Is that like your first big score?
I thought so, because what was in there? It was like Luigi's Mansion, Mario Party 4, Double Dash, and Pikmin 1 or something like that.
That's solid.
Yeah, and
that's
I was
really solid.
Right, and I think I got them all for like $100.
Those are like the early GameCube games. Like,
yeah.
Like some, at least, those are all early GameCube games. That's solid.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, for $100, and now looking at it, it's like, oh, Mario Kart 8 or Mario Kart Double Dash itself is like $70.
Yeah, complete, right? I believe. Yeah,
right.
That's totally solid.
Right, and then I was like, oh, I should start filling out my GameCube game collection again.
Yeah, the games that you like, maybe you borrowed or something, or like you played once at a friend's house, and you're like, I would like a copy of that kind of thing.
And then also, I was picking up like some Wii games here or there because I was like, oh, like I don't see this a lot, or like our Wii section was drying up because we were pushing away from that.
Yeah. Kind of double back one thing you mentioned about if sold games back. We sold games while mostly I think Gabe was working at GameStop, and that was because we're done with this game. We haven't touched it in a while. It also wasn't that good.
Yeah,
We'll sell it back, because again, for the most part, I keep games that I enjoy. You know what I mean? That's kind of like my thing. It's like, it's like one of the, if I know it's a game that I'll probably pop back in and play it again at some point, even for a little bit, just to get like a nostalgia hit, I'll keep it. If it's a game that is like what is it, like Medal of Honor Frontline, like the reboot series, it was fine. So I kept it for a little while. I popped it back in, especially because around that time it was like Battlefield 4 or whatever was out at that time already, and COD was obviously in full swing with maybe like Modern Warfare 3 at that point. And I was like, I held on for a little bit too long, and I was like, let me just get rid of it. And then, because again, at that point I had no longer popped it in, no longer really cared if I wanted to play it again. And I was like, I'll just sell it. Why not? But for the most part, I kept a lot of my stuff.
and like you could do that with like specifically multiplayer games. Like I never played the Call of Duty like single players, like really ever.
Yeah.
And so like I'm like,
I get you.
I would trade in the previous edition, get the new edition because I'm like, oh, if everyone's gonna be online on this game, why do I need this?
Yeah. I mean,
Little did we know that, like I feel like they set us up so people hated the new COD always and went back to the old COD.
There's been a wild resurgence of like a lot of the older games kind of coming back, right? I think a lot. There's even like because it was a couple weeks ago, they realized that the servers are still up for a lot of the old COD games.
Yeah.
And then I think recently I've been seeing there's been like a kind of like a turnaround in terms of like how people felt about what is it, Advanced Warfare or Infinity Warfare, the one where like there's wall running involved.
That was the one with it was like futuristic, right?
Yeah. There's been a
I think it was Advanced
There's
Warfare.
been a turnaround on that too, but it's still not great. Titanfall's still the better product. But like, there's been a turnaround in terms of like people saying, "Wow, yeah, this was really innovative at the time," because the movement's
but
wild.
people didn't like it because it wasn't what they were used to. Most of the time, anytime like a company tries to change something up like that, like you're going to get some backlash.
A little bit, but it's funny because now people are looking back like, this actually was a really good game. You know what I mean? In terms of like a movement shooter, it wasn't great because it didn't really utilize a lot of the movement. Like the maps weren't made for it. You know what I mean? Kind of like what Titanfall was. But people turn around on it, and so people are actually starting to care about those games again now, which is kind of funny because again we talked about before the yearly release games, those usually don't really hold up for the most part, even in terms of like buying like old games like that. Like occasionally I'll see something like where I remember one of the anniversary years for NBA or was it like I don't know, one of the 2Ks where like I think like Jordan was finally on the cover.
Yeah, the first Jordan edition, I know people bought like as a collectible.
Because that actually has, that to be fair, that one makes a little more sense as like a collectible piece. You know what I mean?
When Kobe passed away, I know people were buying up
anything
like,
that had
the Kobe edition.
Kobe edition, yeah, those make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for anything else, if you again like if I have a Madden 97 in my case there now from when I was a kid on PS1. That's not going to sell for anything, but it's like, keep it for myself. At that point.
I know the last NCAA football, like that's worth a lot because it's the last
one.
For whatever reason, the NCAA basketball and GameCube is worth like $500 for whatever.
That's
like,
wild.
Or some ridiculous price. But like we've been talking about, I mostly collect now Super Nintendo stuff, GameCube stuff. I guess I've branched out a little into like some Wii, some Wii U, some GBA, some DS stuff.
I believe most of my collection is currently DS.
I feel like your collection's pretty diverse
PS2.
because you buy like something here and there for everything.
Yeah, for a little bit. To be fair, like I also was like when both of us started doing the hunting thing together, we were going at one point every week.
Yeah,
like every Saturday or every Sunday. Like, we would alternate driving and just go.
Yeah. It's like, we're going north New Jersey
this weekend.
Now we're going west. Now we're going east.
Yeah, this one we're just going to stay local and go through the usual... The local shops we haven't... We like, when we go south, we don't come back and hit the local shops for some reason. Because we're like, we've been out all day driving for the last 5-6 hours. Like, let's call it a day.
Or it's like, I spent like $500. I don't have any more money.
Yeah.
I'm going home.
I've had a couple of those days. Again, especially for me, because again, like for me, as I'm looking at... the way I said again, I'm trying to make a collection whole still on top of buying as well as buying my stuff. So it's like I'm kind of buying for two collections here. I remember early on for me was a bunch of Kirby stuff.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for me because I bought a copy of Kirby's Canvas Curse for the DS, the original DS, on eBay for like $30.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was dead on arrival. Even though the guy said it worked. I saw the contacts on it were super like worn away, so they weren't making contact anymore. I tried cleaning it myself and seeing if I could, but I think you just need to actually add more material there. Unfortunately, at that point, and I don't have the means to do that, so I was like, I'll just return it. I found another copy, complete in box this time, for $40, and I was like, okay, yeah, $10, why not? Right, I'll buy that one, and I won the bid for that one, and then I was like, cool. And I was like, there are a bunch of other Kirby games that I missed. I don't think around this time, Cause
I think you were also playing that on your breaks at work, so you were getting into it, and then you were like, "Oh, I'd enjoy playing more Kirby games."
Yeah.
So then you were like looking out for them.
And then I also realized that there was like a whole
you missed like the whole
window.
GBA like series of Kirby games.
Yeah,
and,
what
like,
was it? Amazing Mirror,
Nightmare in Dreamland.
Nightmare Dreamland, Canvas Curse, Planet Robobot. What's the other one? Squeak Squad. Mass Attack.
Yeah.
Like basically all the handheld Kirby's I missed. I was like, okay, screw it. Like it was like a weird thing where I kind of came back into Kirby games a lot because I just wanted to enjoy something kind of like nice and easy and pick up, put down, and just fun. You know what I mean? Because like especially I think especially around that time, like that like late 2020, early 2021, we had been doing nothing but playing COD. So we were just getting really sweaty every night, and I was like, I just need something really chill to play on my own. Because and on my own I was playing like Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, kind of just like I kind of just like lose a couple hours in kind of thing. Right. And I was like, let me see if I can find something that's like a little more bite-sized and fun to play. So that again, it's the same thing with why the whole resurgence of the Kirby stuff for me. And that was kind of the start of my hunting kind of thing. So I was very focused in the beginning. And then it started spreading out. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this was my collection. This got stolen. Okay, cool. Let me pick this up. You know what I mean? And then I think after that, my next collection thing was like the Metal Gear games.
Right.
I started because I know
you
those
went heavy on the Metal Gear.
Those got stolen. That's also the reason why.
And then you were also like finding collector's editions of different stuff, or like, oh, this was like the 3-pack, and
Yeah, I have an HD collection for the PS Vita. That was 2 and 3 for the Vita, and I also have a Japanese import of the Metal Gear one with the silver box as a collection. I got that for like $110, I think it was. So I actually think I got a deal on that one. And then like Metal Gear 2, like then like the VR missions or like Subsistence, all those. Basically, I started getting those. I think the only one I'm missing that of like the general-ish games that I'm missing is Metal Gear Solid 3. What is it? Subsistence for the Xbox.
Yeah.
Because
they had different versions of it. On like when they came out, for the 360?
Yeah, when they finally, I guess
Xbox.
the exclusive deal, finally like died or whatever. They were like, okay, we'll put on other consoles, kind of thing. So I was very focused in the beginning, and then then after we started finding all these new stores, I went a little wild and started buying everything basically. But what about for you for like because you're still relatively focused in terms of like finding your games, right?
Right. So like I said, I mostly collect Super Nintendo, GameCube stuff, but when I was younger, I got most of the Super Nintendo stuff I wanted from either like birthdays or, I was making money, like helping neighbors, like mowing lawns and stuff like that. So like, back then, it was much cheaper to buy this stuff because like we said, people didn't know what they had or, like games weren't super expensive. So recently, I guess I've been mostly just filling out like bigger titles or harder to find titles. Like I said, I worked at GameStop. Like one day, an Earthbound got traded in.
Yeah, I remember when you told me that story, and I was like, "That's insane."
Right, and like my boss is like, he's like, "You know what this is, right?" The guy's like, "Oh, do you take it?" It's like, "Yes, but do you want to get rid of it?"
Are you sure?
And he's like, "Well, how much would I get for it?" It's like $30, and he's like, "Yeah, sure."
Jeez. When at that time, what was it going for?
I bought it from GameStop for $250 after like the after like the discount stuff I got it for like $150 maybe.
Yeah, so the guy got $30 for a game that was worth closer to $250 at the time.
Yeah, $250.
And then like and then like what is it like? Actually,
Earthbound, I think it's like 350 now,
yeah.
give or take.
So there's gonna be a little bit of digging here on our end here. So Buff and I both use the same app actually. Buff actually turned me on to this one, app called Game Eye, not sponsored.
But there's like a bunch of different apps and
yeah.
websites out there. Price charting is what a lot of people go by if you want to look at recent eBay sales to like get something like super up to date.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different apps and whatever whatever people
Methods.
use kind of thing. But Buff got me onto it, and I remember like finding out that some of our old games in terms of mining games collection are jumped up in price, and we're just like, oh shit, like this is fucking wild. Like a game that for some reason Gabe still has the box for it, or I found out that one of the collector's editions that, especially at GameStop, like things would kind of penny out, or like they would finally like drop like a collector's edition down to like a regular price because they're just not moving,
or like they're penning out all these like strategy guides and it's like
strategy guides.
I'll take I'll take 10
take a
strategy
stack.
guides.
Why not? Exactly.
But I originally got on the app because I was originally gonna catalog my collection on my notes on my phone. And
that's what I was doing before.
And I was like, there has to be an app for this. Somebody had to have invented this. And this one I found, and I was like, oh, and it gives you like the prices and stuff. So I was like, this is like,
it's pretty decent. It's pretty close too, from my understanding. It's a little wonky sometimes because I don't think it scrapes every day. But but it's close if you want to get like a rough estimate, and then if you find something like at a shop and we're like, oh, this is something kind of cool. Let me pull up eBay, pull up like recent sales or sold listings, and like, okay, let me find out.
And the thing for us also is like if you see it in the store, you're like, oh, I could have this now. Because you can go on eBay and buy like anything.
Yeah, and to me, like, possibly get it for a little bit cheaper, but it's like the thrill is the hunt. You know what I mean?
The thrill is
like,
the hunt, and then it's like, oh, this is right in front of you, and you can have it right now in your hand.
Yeah, there's a limit.
Yeah,
there's a limit. Like I remember I found a copy of Metal Gear Solid for the Game Boy Color recently down when I was in Maryland for a weekend, and the guy was charging like an extra $60 over overpriced for it. I'm like, I can get this on eBay. Like, I'm not dying for this game. I can get one of this on eBay that looks decent, maybe even better than this one for closer to what it's supposed to sell for like $100 something right now. I was like, that's fine. Like, I'm not paying the extra $60 for like for to get it right then and there. That being said, that mentality also shifts when I'm at a convention. Same thing. Like I know I'm paying like a con tax. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay,
a luck con tax.
Yeah, exactly. So if I find a game that was like kind of rare, then I was like, I've been looking for this game. Like let's see what they're asking for, and like especially at a convention, you also might be able to get the chance to haggle a little bit too. You know what I mean?
As opposed to a retail store.
Yeah, because they're like, hey man, like
I know you don't want to bring this back with you to Maryland.
Yeah, or like one of the New York stores brings like a good chunk of their like high end collection in. Yeah. And it's like, hey man, like I know you gotta pack all this stuff up. I know you want to sell as much as you possibly can. What can you do if I do this, and I'll pick up another game over here? You know what I mean? Like I see two games here that have some decent value that I really really want. What can you do for me? You know what I mean? In terms of my collection, I want to say like the most expensive thing that I got right now is the Misadventures of Trombone. Again, I got that at a deal. Luckily, again, thank you, Gabe. Appreciate you. What I was saying before, the one that I found had valued was Minish Cap. Gabe just had that randomly complete in box. And then another one too that I was surprised that like I think this is when the flip switch for me. When we found out that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 for the PS2 was like going for like $100-something at the time, like 160, 170.
Yeah,
I think it's still hovering around that thing right now. Yeah, around there, like 160 or so. And I was like, oh, let me start looking through all my old games. So, and again, that was probably like late. That's probably closer to like early 2021 at that point. And that's when we started. That's when we like doubled down on like the whole hunting in Jersey type of thing, basically.
All those 2D Capcom fighters held their value really well.
Yeah,
especially because
collaboration.
Yeah, and like we weren't sure if like Marvel would let like licensing go back, and then when it did go back, they came out with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and everyone hated it.
Yeah, so
everyone was like, "Oh, let's get that
the old one back in." Exactly. But yeah, so like again, like our collection's pretty solid now. Again, luckily, and because I've been very aggressive in terms of picking up things for myself and the and then the Conker's Bad Fur Day. That was another one I realized was pretty decent in terms of pricing.
I remember I got that new back, when that came out.
Yeah, we borrowed it from
like Blockbuster
or West Coast Video. Yeah, we never bought it.
I had the box for that at one point, but like I said, it's just like
we're young and dumb. We didn't know
10-year-old
about
kid.
it,
You're just like, what do I
need this for? I have the game now.
The most expensive one I have is I have a copy of Mega Man 7 with the book, not the box.
Whoa. Okay.
But I got a good deal on that back in 2014, I think.
Oh damn.
So I was like looking on, like, so before all the apps like Whatnot and like Facebook Marketplace were like big. I was like looking on like Craigslist for whatever reason I was doing that.
So Craigslist and eBay, the OG way basically.
Right, and then like I saw someone selling. It was Mega Man 7, and I want to say it was Mega Man Soccer. I think together.
I remember that game.
I think together for like $100, and I was like, oh, I never see Mega Man 7, and I just bought it. Like, not really. Like, I knew there was a website called Price Charting, but not really realizing like, oh, what this stuff costs.
What it was, yeah.
I was just like, oh, I never see this, and he was like, oh, like I have the booklet too if you want that, and I took the booklet for that, and now it's worth like $500.
That's solid. Yeah, like Metal Gear Solid Rising Revengeance, like the limited edition. Gabe bought a sealed, or he bought that for the Xbox 360 and the PS3, and the PS3 one is still sealed. What is it? Mega Man Legends 2. I got bought relatively recently within the last year, because I remember that we found that at the Brooklyn store.
Yeah.
Which was a pretty solid buy. Unfortunately, you weren't at that shop with us because I think you were busy that weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so our friend Zach brought Tim and I over there, and they just had that just sitting on the shelf. I'm like, or no, sitting in the display the counter, and I was like, oh shit, how much is this going for? And they're like, I think they were asking like $120 for it, and I was like, it was not. I was expecting to come here to hang out and just see the shop. I wasn't expecting to have like something that I would really, really wanted right then and there. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna pull the trigger on this thing. Why not? You know what I mean? Because it's something, again, part of the collection that I really, really wanted to kind of fill back out. Because that's another thing too. Again, I mentioned before, Philippines bootlegs. I wanted to buy like real ones now of a lot of these games too. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing now, like, you really have to be careful for, especially with the cartridge stuff, is bootleg stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, there has been like a surge in terms of people, finding ways to do pretty good bootlegs. Like,
I mean, unfortunately, also like with like eBay stuff, I know a lot of the methods that people use are, you could easily open the cartridge up and look at the the chips,
the board,
the board,
the PCB,
and like it clearly says, oh, Nintendo copyright, blah blah blah.
Very
like that's the very like easy way to do
basic way to verify anything Nintendo.
Right, but obviously like a store is not going to let you go in and start opening up.
No.
Yeah. But for me, the easy way to do it is Nintendo always stamped like the either the front cover art of the cartridge,
yes,
or the back of the cartridge, like there's like a little number stamp on it. So,
yeah.
I haven't seen anybody be able to replicate that.
Yeah. There's also been like I remember you gave me some not flack for it, but you kind of waved me off of it. Yeah. There was a thing called like the Commander, I think it was called, like for the PC, where it's like it's essentially like a physical emulator.
Yeah.
Where it reads the cartridge and you can dump the ROM that way.
Yeah.
And one of the functions actually is to it can confirm if it's a real game or not. And there's like, so when we go hunting, I usually bring my backpack, and inside of that is my 2DS XL, my new 2DS XL, my PS Vita, and my Switch, because those and a Game Boy Advance, because I can always check games right then and there, make sure they're working. You know what I mean?
Yeah, with the handheld stuff, it's so easy to check.
Yeah, I can pop it. Right before I buy, just pop it in myself. But then like with that one, if I want to do that, I would have to bring like a small laptop with me, and bring that thing with me at all times to confirm like any sort of Game Boy cartridge. You know, because again, that's another way to verify it, that that it's not like a fake shell and just been with an original sticker just put back onto it kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I think there's another way to do that as well too, with like. There's another device specifically for like Nintendo, SNES, Sega, and so on and so forth for the bigger cartridges, basically. In terms of like, your collection, like what are you currently looking for?
Stuff I'm really currently looking for. It sucks because I feel like I do sometimes have to pay overpriced because the stuff I'm looking for is rare. Like I'm looking for. Like Dracula X on Super Nintendo. I'm looking for Captain Commando on Super Nintendo. And then there's stuff I could get like easily, but I just haven't wanted to pull the trigger yet on it. It's like lower down on my want list. Like I need Eternal Darkness, Sandy's Requiem.
Which we've seen those.
Yeah, I've seen that, but I'm like, oh, do I want to spend the $100 now? Like, maybe if I got like a bigger check or work some overtime, I'm like, oh yeah, I could pick that up finally. But
and do you think that it's like, especially with games that you don't think is going to be jumping anytime soon in terms of value, right?
And also, that's more like, just to fill out the collection. I'm not jonesing to play it.
Yeah, I get you.
I need to pick up Sacred Stones for Fire Emblem. A couple. I need to get the DS Zelda games. I need Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass.
Those I got recently because I know Gabe has those. I think he lost one. I think he lost Phantom Hourglass, or no, he might have lost Spirit Tracks. He lost one of them, and I ended up finding a copy of one loose, and then I ended up finding another copy of Spirit Tracks sealed.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'll buy that. Yeah, why not? And I think at the time I overpaid like by $30 for it. I think initially, and then now it's like back up already in terms of value. It's like it came back up already. I'm like, cool. Because the thing is, especially with a lot of this stuff. Oh, that's another reason why I started hunting. Is because the shop started going down. They had announced like the Wii shop was going down. The DS shop was going down. Was like 2021 they announced it.
Yeah,
and it went down this year, last year,
a few months ago. I feel like.
Yeah. So. Yeah, because that's what it was. So they held off. They held it up. They kept it up for an extra year or something like that because of the backlash. Same with PS3, and the Vita as well too.
Yeah.
So like I remember whenever those started getting announced, that's another reason why I started like doubling down on my efforts to try to find some of the stuff that I really really wanted. Because sure I can always buy them digitally, but again it's the physical aspect. I like holding onto the game, looking at the the artwork in there. And like again, it's a complete package. That's the reason why I want to buy this stuff physically. You know what I mean? And like. And I've definitely had like a rant on this like in our friend group of like, it's funny because I use Steam, I use Epic Game Store, I use GOG, I buy digital copies, but it's like it's like what if those things go down? Do I actually own my games anymore? You know what I mean? So it's like,
or if you lose your access to that email and password, it's
or the service goes down, anything, whatever.
Somebody hacks it or whatever.
I lose everything.
Yeah.
So I like to buy physicals especially for games that I know that for sure I really really enjoy.
Yeah, like computer games, unfortunately, you can't really buy physical anymore.
Not anymore. Like that kind of went way around like I want to say the late 2000s.
Like honestly, for me, if a game is digital only, I do question on buying it more. Like, yeah, I would rather have the physical game in my hand. Like,
yeah, that also kind of like got me into limited run a little bit because of that.
Yeah,
like I remember like some of the Shantae games were released as limited run games, but then now limited run, they make so many copies of everything that isn't actually limited run anymore. You know what I mean? Like the novelty has kind of gone away a little bit because of it. I get it. If you're really popular at the time and you're making a lot of money, yeah, go ahead and make your money. I get it, but it's just like. It loses. It's like a special. How special it is because of it. It's kind of it's a weird way to look at it, I guess.
Like I waited for Cadence of Hyrule to get the physical edition before buying that.
Yeah, I bought that early digitally. I was like, I just want this game right away.
Because you played the Crypt of the Night.
I love that game. And again, I was
on a previous episode.
Yeah, and I also enjoyed Legend of Zelda games.
Yeah.
It's been a while that I think about it since I've beaten a Legend of Zelda game, but whatever. Once I heard that game's coming out, I was like, cool, I'm buying this immediately. And then I bought a physical like a week later. I was like, nope, I'm gonna buy this because I want this for my collection. Because this like,
and it is an indie developer. You want to support the indies.
It's an indie developer that was allowed by Nintendo to use their property.
Yeah,
which is wild. So I was like, I'm gonna buy this. Absolutely, I'm going to.
Cuphead, I was given a digital copy, but I went out and bought the physical.
Okay. So yeah, again, you very much enjoyed the game. So it's like, yeah, why not support the game? It's again another indie developer for that one too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly, why not support them? And also during the retro game hunts, we're also not just buying video games. Like we mentioned in a previous conversation where we buy the amiibos, like the Toys to Life episode, right?
And a lot of these collectible stores, like we said, have statues, have cards.
Actual figurines. You know what I mean?
So we're buying a little bit of everything.
Bit of everything.
Like we went to that one store and they had those HoloLive figures.
Yeah.
Lakan talks about HoloLive a lot.
Yeah, I'm still really big into HoloLive. So I remember, what was it? It was the shop in South Jersey, right?
Yeah, South Jersey.
Yeah. They randomly just had like a couple of the same figure. So I bought one for myself, And then I ended up asking a friend of mine who was also into Hololive. He's like, "Hey, do you want one of those figures?" He goes, "Oh wait, they're here now. They're the U.S." I'm like, "I guess so," because I assumed we were just buying everything from, like Geek Buy or whatever, or whatever one of the Japanese like purchasing sites that ships over internationally kind of thing, right? We're like, oh shoot, yeah. If that's the case, if they're here already, then just that saves me like like $50 in terms of shipping. Yeah, just buy one for me. You know what I mean, kind of thing. So we went back to the shop again, bought another one.
And then he's walking out with handfuls of these anime figures.
Yeah, that was funny. There was one of the shops in North Jersey where I remember Buffa. You didn't find anything in that store, right?
I didn't find something, and there was a pizza place next door. I was hungry, so I went and got a slice of pizza. And then like I look out the window, and Lakan's just sneaking to the car with like six boxes of anime figures, and like sees me in the window, and he's like, "Oh God,
Don't look at me! Don't look at me in my shame." They're still here. Still part of the collection. But so another thing again with the video game stores, we don't just do like video games exclusive hunts kind of thing. We look for a little bit of everything. I remember a couple shops ago I found some strategy guides.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately one of the shops nearby is a little bit of a trip out, but they were closing down. So we were kind of like picking at like random bins.
Yeah, because they were like trying to get rid of the stuff.
Anything.
So
they're like anything in the store is for sale basically.
Yeah, he was haggling on prices, percentage off kind of deal.
I bought a TV.
I think you bought a keyboard there also. Right?
Yeah, I bought a mechanical keyboard for Tim for like $5.
Right.
Because he was complaining about like because my brother sold him like a tiny like micro keyboard, which you have to do like layers. You have to press like function and then press 1 to use F1. Because instead of just hitting an F1 key, I was like, here you go, Tim. I know you play MMOs. You need one of these. Just get a full size keyboard. I bought a small CRT for like $10. Unfortunately, it was dead on arrival. We didn't test it in store.
Yeah.
So I wasted $10. But then I ended up finding like the seasons of Oracles of Seasons and Ages.
Yeah.
Because that was like a dual. It was like a dual strategy guide. What is it? I found like a Wind Waker strategy guide, a Metroid Prime strategy guide, and those also like I didn't realize because I paid like $5 for every one of those basically.
Yeah, give or take.
Those are worth like closer to between 30 to 50 each, I guess. Like just depending on like who's buying them kind of thing. I was like, and also if the posters are still inside.
Yeah.
Like that also opened up a whole other world that I've never actually really delved into, where like people collect the Prima strategy guides or whatever other brand strategy guides. Brady Games, there we go. That's the other one.
Same thing with the old Nintendo Powers. They all had posters in it, so people want the ones with the posters.
Yeah.
In the Nintendo Powers.
I actually found one of the Mega Man Legacy collection that I had for the 3DS. Still had the stickers. Like the sticker pack.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit, hell yeah! I still have them somewhere. I think I took them out of the case for now, but I didn't.
Was that the one with the amiibo, or that didn't have, or you didn't have the amiibo?
Don't think
it was
I had
the
gold
Mega Man amiibo.
Oh, that was the one we saw in South Jersey. No. I found a random. I think I bought that at one of the shops we go to. That's like a mess, and I bought that and like the NES Remix collection. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, why not? Because it was like, okay, it's cool. I like more versions of handheld versions of like these collections of games because I have it on Steam. But I was like, it'd be nice to have it on like my especially at the time because I just bought a new 2DS XL. So I was like, oh cool, more games for this thing.
Have you gone to any flea markets lately or garage sales looking for games? Or?
Garage sales, yes, because there's like 3 or 4 houses in this area specifically that have one every other week or so. One of the houses I know for sure they don't have any more games. Every week they're mostly selling like furniture, old toys, clothes. You know what I mean, and like other small hobbyist stuff like a fishing gear. I'm like, that's cool, but it's not what I'm looking for. I do actually should buy one of those fishing rods. But the other 2 shops, or the other 2 houses that I've gone to, 2 of the other houses out of the 4 that I've gone to, they do occasionally have like a random like small assortment of like Game Boy games. Nothing crazy.
I feel like nowadays when I go to flea markets, people are mostly selling like 360 stuff or PS3 stuff, like more.
Yeah.
I guess that's not modern anymore, but more modern than like Nintendo Super Nintendo.
What comes to most people's minds when we say retro? I've seen a couple of those. Not here though. I think in the other towns I see that like Westfield, Cranford, like those places. Like I see a little more of that stuff.
And I feel like with the advent of the internet, it's like it's hit or miss whether you get a good deal at a garage sale. Because now people
Yeah.
are like, oh, they'll look it up.
Now I know. Yeah, exactly. Because mostly in this area is like a lot of like older heads. You know what I mean? Their kids moved out. And there's like, I'm just trying to get rid of it kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just take up space in the attic or the basement. In terms of like hunting, is there like a way you think of how you go about it? Do you kind of go into the day of thinking like I'm looking for something specifically, or do you just go, I'm on a whim? I'm just like, I feel like going to a shop today.
That really depends on the day. Like, if I'm in an area and I'm like, oh, I know there's a shop here, I'll just walk in and see what they have. If we're specifically out looking, like, I'm like, oh, I'd like to find this, or, maybe I could find this or that.
Okay. Yeah, because especially if you're like on a work route or something, right? Or you're just getting off of work, and you're like, I'm driving by someplace. Why not? Yeah, right. See what's up.
Right, or if I'm going to North Jersey to see some family, or I'm going to the beach. Like, I'm gonna pass by this store anyway. Let me go over here.
Yeah, that's been my thing recently because I've gone to the shore, not a lot this summer so far. I've gone like 3 times now, I think it is. But there's a shop in Tom's River that we've gone to before, which is it's decent. I think they happen to be more of a card shop, unfortunately for us anyway, which is cool. Because it's cool they have a local scene. It's just not what we're looking for, but they do have a pretty decent collection of like old was it the cool thing we found there was they had the paper boxes for like PlayStation stuff, right? Like
some of the tall box. And I think they had like a weird collection of like Sega CD or Sega
Saturn stuff. Yeah, it's kind of cool. And then they have like a bunch of like loose DS games and just bins of like PS2, PS1 games. And that's fine, whatever, because there's plenty of those games that I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this game. I'd buy this. Why not? You know what I mean? Kind of like this will easily keep me distracted for like a couple hours over a weekend, kind of thing.
Right, and for you travel a lot, so when you go visit friends, like, they know you're into video games, so they're like, oh, there's a local store. You went to one in Portland, you've gone to some in, Maryland?
Maryland, Toronto.
Yeah.
My friend brought me there to a place that did retro games. Actually, that's where, my friend got me the copy of Power Stone there.
Yeah.
Because I went there, I went in like 2019, I went to Canada for a wedding, and then I think it was like the second to last day I was there, we walked around like Toronto. And before the whole group of us got together, like me and my boy Mark were like, he was like, oh, by the way, there's a place here that builds fight sticks, and it's like a retro shop and a retro card shop. I'm like, oh, sure, why not? I go and I'm like, oh, sick, this is awesome. So like one side is like there's like a small area you can build your fight sticks kind of thing, with universal PCBs. There's like a bunch of video games up front. And then to the left side of it was like their card collection, like Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Vice Schwartz, DBZ, everything. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, sick, this is awesome. So
where'd you see the one with all the video game vinyls? Was that Portland?
That was Portland. Yeah, that was sick. That's one of the things that like that's two rabbit holes of collections in one kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where we have friends. I have friends who are like vinyl. Do you have anyone who's like collects like vinyl records?
Just our friend Zach.
Just Zach. Yeah. I mean, I have a couple here for myself. But like they had like everything from like the Street Fighter 2 soundtrack on vinyl. Like they had the Mega Man games on, like Mega Man, like 1 through like 4 or 5 on vinyl. I was like, this is sick. What the hell is this? Metal Gear Solid. Like I didn't realize a lot of these games had made vinyls of their games, their game soundtracks, basically. And I was like,
or even
awesome.
If it was like a secondary company, it's still cool because you do like the soundtrack of like the Mega Man stuff, the Metal Gear stuff.
I'm a big music guy, so I was like, oh, this is actually really, really cool. I bought at this last PAX, I bought double vinyl of Crypt of the Necrodancer because they unfortunately last year they sold out when I went back to the booth. But so this year I was like, let me get it out of the way early. I'll walk around with a vinyl in my hand. Unfortunately, you have to be really careful. I don't want people smashing it. But that one I got that for myself recently. But that's the thing. We don't really see a lot of them here in this area. I don't think anyway. I like when I went to Boston, I bought. Tim and I found a like a comic shop, like a pops, like comics, kind of like pop culture shop, I guess, whatever. Because it's not just a comic shop, but they had manga up there. They had a Hololive figure that I bought there as well too. This one, the red one.
Okay. The listeners can't say.
Yeah. It's a figure of Hosho Marine from the Pop Up Parade collection. They just randomly had it like just on the shelf, and I was like, okay, cool. Why not buy that? And then they were selling like a vinyl of like Cowboy. I bought a Cowboy Bebop vinyl. I was like, that's cool because the thing is like also the record shop near us closed down. They carried mostly just like bands and
like old head stuff.
So that, but yeah, like that was a whole tangent, but like, yeah, that's a whole other like rabbit hole of like again vinyl and video game soundtracks. Like that they don't really do that here. I feel like not in this area anyway.
You wanted to buy a bunch of those, but I think you only had your backpack, so you couldn't fit all those vinyls in.
Yeah,
like with you.
Yeah, I'd be scared to like walk around with it, and then we had to put it in the car for a couple hours and all.
Oh,
this
and then
stuff.
You're traveling it back with you,
From
like
Boston.
so you didn't have the room, and then you were afraid to ship it back, so you were like, I'll just fuck it.
Maybe next time I come back here, I'll have
You'll
like,
bring like a carry-on,
like a crate. You know what I mean? That's what
something.
I'll probably do next time. Like I'll just bring a crate or a carry-on or ship it or bring it to a friend who moved. If they move out there or come back, kind of thing. At least for the Portland one. Again, for the one in Boston, it's like I can just pick those up myself and just drive back down because again, unfortunately, there's not as many record shops down here anymore now.
Yeah, just casual drive to Boston, 4 hours.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Especially for PAX. That's always down. I'm always down for the weekend.
Well, when are you going to PAX West?
Ooh, man, that's rough. Well, PAX West I think just happened, right? Or is it soon?
Or it's coming up? I'm not.
Yeah, I don't
sure.
remember if it's in August or September. It's one of the two. Because my friends went a couple years ago and
you dated the podcast.
Oh yeah, well, sorry guys. But yeah, like I would like to go to PAX West. I heard it's a little bit bigger than PAX East. I wouldn't be surprised. Like a lot of those.
Well, then a lot of the game companies are also on the West Coast anyway.
Yeah. But I've also heard like complaints from like people who have been to PAX regularly for like the last I don't know however many years at this point that they said that it used to be a lot nicer. Like it was much more like crowd facing. You know what I mean? Like PAX East is really fun still for me because it's like it is very much so like it's a smaller convention, but it's like, hey, random dude. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, come play my game kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like. Sure, why not? That's basically what it is. They're constantly pitching for you. You know what I mean? They want to get as many people to get hands on for the games, basically.
And then you're like, I'm not a rando.
I'm not a rando. I'm media now.
You're rando.
To me, perspective, boys. Yeah. What was it saying? Yeah. Back to the original topic. We had solid tension over there. Do you have all the consoles still, or do you just collecting stuff even if you don't have the console? Because I have a friend of mine who like has like a Sega like the whole Sega built together thing. I forgot what the hell that whole system thing was called. But he has like a bunch of like Sega Saturn games. He doesn't even own a Sega Saturn. He only owns like the OG the big Sega Genesis.
So with Saturn stuff, if you could find that at like very cheap prices, buy it. Like because you could either resell it or all that stuff is going to go up. There wasn't very much Saturn stuff made. I've kind of kept myself out of the Sega stuff.
I think that's why he bought it because he's just like I just know these are rare.
Right. Like I had some Dreamcast stuff. Like myself, I found like a cheap copy. I think together on Craigslist at the time, I found a copy of Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and Capcom vs. SNK. They were $50 for the two of them.
Okay. Well, wow.
So I was like, I know that's a good deal. And then like I was like, oh, do I really want to start Dreamcast collecting? Because even back then, like when I got them, it might have been 2016 or so. I'm like, Dreamcast stuff is expensive and it's only gone up.
Yeah, and the thing with Dreamcast is like, I think we explained it to was it Steve? I think it was because like he mentioned something about he had a Dreamcast game or something. He was wondering about. We said like there's like what the 5 or 6 that everyone kind of like needs for their collection, which are still surprisingly relatively easy to get. Like the Power Stones.
They're easy to get, but those are expensive.
But they're climbing in price, yeah.
With like Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2, you could find those for moderate prices, and you could find them easily. Crazy Taxi's another one that's pretty moderate, and you can find easily.
Power Stone 1 and 2 have jumped.
Yeah, those are going to be at least 100.
Now, yeah, because I bought a loose copy of Power Stone 1 for like $50. That's the one my friend in Canada said. Like a week after I left Canada, they came in. He was like, I'll pick it up for you, I'll ship it to you kind of thing.
But then anything... I think Jet Grind Radio is another one that's like cheap-ish.
Cheap-ish, yeah.
Like 30, 40. Because then any of the sports games are cheap. But anything after that, like it's running you like at least 75.
The Panzer Dragoon games, I think, was pretty high. Or the single game. Because the thing is, I think a lot of those other games either got ported to another console or they had a digital release later down the line on like Steam on PC kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like Jet Grind Radio is on PC. I can get that. Before we even did the episode, I had Jet Set Radio on PC before we even did the episode. So it's like, okay, cool. We can get these games are still relatively easy to get, but some of them, are starting to become like rarities at this point now. Like
like all the 2D fighters, Street Fighter Third Strike, Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2 are expensive. Plasma Sword, Rival Schools.
Yeah, I remember that was. I remember
Or
we
was
saw
it
that
Project
recently.
Justice now? I think that's like $400.
Yeah, it's
Cannon Spike is expensive. Like a lot of Dreamcast games are very expensive.
Yeah, so in my opinion, because I wasn't so attached to the console anyway, I have no skin in that game. I've completely overlooked it basically. I was like, except for the Power Stone 1 and 2. I was like, I just want those games basically.
And those are games like I want, and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to spend the money. I don't have a Dreamcast. So it's like the Dreamcast stuff is mostly my brother's. I've stayed out of Genesis because I wasn't really attached to the Genesis as a child.
I was more of an SNES kid. We had both, but I played more SNES, so that's why I would buy a lot of the SNES stuff. Also because I hate the Sega Genesis controller, so I refuse to use it.
Like in terms of consoles, like I need a PlayStation. Like, ideally, I would get a PlayStation 3 that's backwards compatible, but I don't have...
Those are insane now in price.
Yeah, I don't have a PS1, 2, or 3, so anytime I buy, like, a PlayStation game, it's like I don't have a console to play it on.
Which is funny, because for me, I have the opposite issue of, like, where I have, like, 3 PS1s, 2 PS2s, or 3 PS2s, one's just for parts, because one's completely dead. And then PS3s, we have, like, the Fat Boy PS3, the backwards compatible one, and we have 2 slim ones. For like one is a Blu-ray player for my parents for downstairs in the main TV, and then like one I think was my brother's because he's one in his room so he could play stuff basically. And it's just like we have all these consoles. And it's like now we can't get rid of them because now they're starting to become like the PS2 is still pretty easy to get. The PS1 is still pretty easy to get.
Yeah, PS2 was the highest selling console
of all time.
So
There's
like,
a million of them.
You can find those,
but like
the PS3's like
starting to decline. The mainly the backwards compatible ones are hard one to get nowadays.
And then like the PS3, I feel like broke easily, or a lot of people like the 360. A lot of people had problems with them, so it's
360s absolutely did. They overheated. Obviously, we all know about the red ring of death. But the PS3s, the older ones, I think the lasers would die, or
I think the fat models,
disc tray would die. Yeah, especially earlier models. My brother and I, when we first bought the PS3, we were the early adopters for our friend group, which I think I mentioned to Jeff during our controller episode, where we swore we're like, oh, PS3 is so sick, guys, and everyone was 360. We were the early. We got it at like Costco, like I want to say like a month after it came out, or maybe even like 2 weeks after it came out. It died in like a month. Still within warranty, so we got another one anyway. But it's just like, man, like that's not a good sign. All early models are gonna have a little bit of issues, right? But it was like, ooh, this is kind of rough for the first start of this next generation of console at the time.
That whole generation kind of sucked.
I don't know, man. I think experience-wise, it was really good though. The PS3 360 generation.
Yeah, like
because at that point, officially, we were online.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just the systems. It's like I think I went through in a span of like half a year, like 3 Xbox 360s.
Yeah, I do know people who had to like constantly get replacements or repairs basically done.
Like it's actually pretty insane.
Yeah, not great in terms of like quality. And that's the thing. I'm scared if my current consoles are gonna die now. You know what I mean? The ones that I own.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention this. I mentioned before that I bought a new 2DS XL. Not a new one, but like the models, the new 2DS XL. We were talking about like the rarity of those ones. I found at one of the shops we frequent the Hylian Shield one, which is I bought it for like $250, I think it was when I bought it.
Honestly, that 2DS isn't a good model. It's too heavy.
It is. It's funny because a lot of people say online who bought that model, that's why the hinge sucks on that one. To be fair, yeah, they're not wrong, but it's a really cool thing. And the thing is, I realized 4 months after I bought it, it had jumped up like $80 in terms of price.
I think that's because of Tears of the Kingdom came out.
Yeah, so anytime another game comes out, that anything from that particular series just jumps up in terms of price. Like anytime when the new Kirby Forgotten Land came up.
That's kind of when you started
collecting all my Kirby stuff.
Yeah,
like,
doubling down on the Kirby stuff.
And I was like, God, why would you do this right now? Because I just found a couple of these and they did all jumped up a little bit, like 20, anywhere between 10 to $30. I'm like, this is so easy last week. It would have been so much. I should just pull the trigger back then, kind of thing. Right. But yeah, I also bought consoles basically. And I remember you helped me out one time. You bought the PS,
the classic,
the PS Classic. Yeah, the little retro collection, and the PS TV.
Yeah,
I remember I was so stoked when you got that one for me. I really appreciated that one.
Well, we went to that one we went to a store that was mostly like a sports card store, but they were also selling like they had a couple games and like a ton of consoles.
And they were attached to an eBay. Or no, they were attached.
They were attached to a FedEx.
Like a FedEx. It was weird.
So then, what you bought like a Wii or something for like $20? Was that like?
No, I bought a PlayStation. I bought a PlayStation, the PlayStation 1, the little tiny one.
Yeah, the tiny, like it was called the PS1,
which was like technically the second version of that console,
right?
Versus the PSX.
But it was like what? It was white.
White, yeah, and it came with like,
and that was like $20 or something, right? And it came, and he had like the original controller.
45.
To it?
I paid 45 for that thing with the original controller.
Yeah. That's like a cool little system.
Yeah, it was a solid thing. I was like, this is absolutely worth it, perfectly fine. And then we find out like online they're selling for like $30. I'm like, whatever. It's like whatever. I got it here. It was fine. It was a cool find. Again, it's the experience. That's another thing that like of the whole hunting thing that I really enjoy anyway.
Because you forget like they made so many systems. Like I remember seeing like a bunch of Game Boy Micros, and I was like, oh yeah, like they came out with the fucking Game Boy Micro.
Those are.
And now those are like expensive.
Impossible to find now.
Yeah.
Like the one in what was the one in Asbury Park?
Yeah.
They used to have like a bunch of them in the behind the counter like in the bags, right? And then like I remember our most recent time we went there like what, a month ago maybe. I asked the guy and I was like, hey, you got any more Game Boy Micros? And he was like, no, those are all gone. I'm like, you were selling none of these a couple months ago. Now they're all gone.
Or like I remember I saw Neo Geo Pocket Color and I kind of wanted it because I wanted the Card Fighter Clash game with it.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
And then I was like, do I really need? Spend $200
for this one thing that I really for this one thing that I want. This is like. Luckily for us, I think the shops near us have a good variety too. You know, because like none of these shops really specialize in anything.
Yeah.
But I remember back in the day, at least for me, the one shop we used to go to was the one in Clifton. And you said you had gone there for way longer than we have. Like, you remember you used to hunt there regularly, right?
Yeah. So, what was my brother in college? He started going to college in 1998, so maybe we were going in like 2001, 2002-ish.
Okay, so you're still in like middle school-ish area, right? Okay.
And then we used to go to that Burger King next door after.
Yeah, really close. Just get yourself a snack. Yeah. But yeah, because I remember when I went to that shop, that was like the first time I realized that it was really like a proper shop for it, I guess, because there wasn't really a lot around here, around our area specifically. We had to drive like 20, 30 minutes north, basically. At the time. And then there's also another shop in Bloomfield that I think I brought you to before when I was still in college. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
It was not good. It was not a good shop. Or at least it felt very empty. You know what I mean? It just didn't, like they had a decent amount of stuff in there, but like it just didn't feel like they had anything. Well,
that's the problem with these stores. It's like, if they're they're relying on trades for most of their stuff.
Yeah.
It really depends on what comes in, like especially in their first couple days. Because if you're getting all like just old copies of Madden and stuff like that, you're not gonna have a really good selection.
Yeah. Because I remember that store definitely had like a couple Nintendo 64 stuff, but mostly like sports stuff. And I was like, these are worth nothing basically to me.
Right.
And then, oh my gosh, there was one store specifically that I'm trying to remember when we went there.
I feel like a lot of stores that we've gone to recently also have had a lot of import stuff.
Yeah, I saw there's been like an uptick of it, and especially on one of the shops that I follow on Instagram as well too. They're always posting like, "Oh, hey, we have a big shipment from Japan coming in," and then I was like. And I remember they mentioned it too last time we went to that store. They're like, yeah, we have a bunch of stuff coming in from Japan. And like a couple months later, it finally came in.
And in my head, I'm like, is there a big market for like Super Famicom stuff? And I mean, maybe there is here, but...
A little bit. So,
I'm just like, I can't read it.
So it's weird. So I bought a Japanese copy of Metal Gear Solid 3D for the 3DS, right? Because I wanted it for the 3DS, because that's like, cause I was trying to fill out the collection of the Metal Gear Solid stuff. So it doesn't work, obviously, the one that I have.
Because you don't have a Japanese system.
I don't have a Japanese system, exactly, because they were still like region locked. But
that's been the best thing about the Switch. On a side note,
absolutely, yeah. All the new consoles, all the last gen and the current gen consoles none of them are region locked anymore, from my understanding. So, I bought that and it was super cheap. And I only paid like $30 for it. Like, and I paid like $12 in shipping from Japan, which is not terrible, honestly.
Right.
Honestly, very surprising because I assumed it was going to be up, just charged away at the ass for it. And then like trying to find the American version, or at least an English version of that game. I ended up. Oh my god! Let me see.
I think you spent like $100.
I want to say probably close to it. Let's find out. Let's find out here right now.
I think also because like you started looking for the Metal Gear stuff when something happened with Kojima, right?
No, Konami. They announced that they were no longer going to be. I think the rumor was they were no longer going to be selling the any of the Metal Gear games because they didn't re-up any of the licenses to use any of the footage in those games.
Right.
They eventually ended up.
Yeah. Now they announced they're coming out with the collection.
Yeah. Which was like unfortunate because like it shot up the price, and they're making the collection. Cool. The price is gonna come down now, right? No. Unfortunately, in terms of like the Metal Gear, Metal Gear Solid market, all the prices just stayed up, and they just refused to come down at this point, which is very, very unfortunate. I paid $115 for the English Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater 3D for the 3DS. For the Japanese one, I paid $24. I'm like, yeah. So I mean, you take your hits every once in a while, right? I mentioned JoJo was a pretty rough one for me, where I spent like $260 for it, I think it was.
Yeah. And
then it dropped down to like $80 when they announced they were re-releasing it for the PS4 and for Steam, and I'm like, well, there goes that.
But you never know. It's like, who would have thought like.
Yeah, who in their right mind would have thought this game would ever get a re-release kind of thing?
Yeah, because like sometimes you could predict it because it's like, oh, they're coming out with a new game, maybe they'll re-release an old game, or like, like if JoJo had like a movie coming out, or something.
Well, they had a season coming out. That's why season part 6 was coming out on Netflix. That's why. So that's why there was like a lot of like interest in terms of like JoJo energy. But yeah, that's kind of like the weird thing. You kind of follow like cultural pop
but that's
culture
like
trends
any
at the same time.
Kind of collectibles that you buy. Like you never know when there's going to be a re-release or a restock of things.
Yeah. Because we talked about it a little bit in terms of like
with the amiibos,
and
like
and
Pops,
the Toys to Life
like,
stuff.
It's like, there's tons of re-releases. Sometimes.
Yeah, there really is. But in terms of games, like again, for the most part, like at least in terms of like old stuff, it's always like. Because I think like the collections and stuff, like I remember when the retro consoles, like the PS1 Mini, the little emulator console basically, and then like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, they all made them. I don't think they affected the prices of those games at all.
No, I think if anything, it made people want the cartridges more because like they announced a new Super Mario RPG and. For the longest time, it was like 50, and then it just steadily kept climbing.
Okay, it's one of those. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because we mentioned before Nintendo.
That's
they
close
can,
to,
they can just maintain value.
Close to 100 now.
Jeez. Okay, so after the announcement.
Yeah, currently it's close to 100.
Okay, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, like so in terms of like retro hunting, like I asked you this before, but for me, in terms of for my thing, when I go hunting for the weekend, a lot of it is just like. I'm just down for a trip. I'm just down to hang out with one of my friends. You know what I mean? Or a bunch of my friends, for that matter.
Yeah, we've gone with like a bunch of people. It's fun to just shoot the shit. We eat some gas station food.
Yeah, we go to Wawa, hang out near a dumpster.
Get some pizza.
Sometimes we've had a good pizza spot. The one in Blackwood's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then also like a bit of like a nostalgia hit. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, I remember playing this game with my brother, or like I remember like seeing this and I never got to play it, or oh shoot, they sell Blu-rays here of like old animes that I never got to watch, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Anything. So I
do just appreciate also seeing rare stuff. Like like I'm not gonna buy TurboGrafx stuff, but seeing like here's a whole case of TurboGrafx shit.
Yeah.
Like look at that inbox copy of like Mega Man X3 for $1,500. Oh. Like I'm not gonna buy that, but that's cool.
I think that I've been doing recently.
I just appreciate the stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just seeing cool old stuff is like just fun. You know what I mean? Especially stuff that I could never buy when we were younger. But one thing that I've been doing recently is I don't know if you agree with me on this one because like there's a lot of these games are much easier ways to just get them. But like I've been buying a lot of like cheap like 2 or 3 generation old games or 1 or 2 generation old games. Like I bought
recently you bought like some of the Prince of Persia stuff, some of the Assassin's Creed stuff.
I bought the entire Prince of Persia 1, 2, and 3, the reboot series anyway, and the reboot, the 2008 one which actually worked out because I ended up being an episode, and then the HD trilogy collection for the PS3. So obviously the first 3 came out on PS2, PS3 was for the collection of all three, which that was just like, oh, it just makes it even easier for me to play these games because now it's just on one console. I don't have to plug anything else. I just plug in one console. I'm done. I can just play the whole thing. I bought a TMNT like brawler on the Xbox, the OG Xbox.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool. It's like 15, like $10, $15 I think when I bought. But I was like, yeah, why not? Because it's just $10 and it'd be like a fun weekend game for me to just play and just kind of just mess around with it, basically. You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess as much as we don't want to admit it, the original Xbox is now 20 years old.
Yeah.
PlayStation 3 is 10, 15 years old now.
Was it 2006 or 2007? I think it was when it came out.
Yeah, the 360 was what?
Same year.
08, 09, give or take.
Yeah, I think they're like a year off, right? Yeah, so
something like
something like that. So yeah.
Well, what Halo 2 was? Wait, no, that was OG Xbox.
Yeah, there's OG Xbox. Xbox.
Halo 3 was
360. Halo 3 was 360.
Was that 2006, or was that later?
I want to say that was later.
But still, whatever, 15 years old, give or take. So it's like that stuff is retro now.
It is retro now. Yeah, again, two, 3 generations at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I've been doing that a lot recently.
But that stuff, like, the Assassin's Creed games are good.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah, mostly. But the TMT game,
2, 3 are good.
One's good.
Some of them you could skip. Like I wouldn't play Revelations, but that's me. Or
Assassin's Creed games. Yeah. Yeah, the Ezio trilogy is good. 3's decent. 4 is fine if you like boat stuff.
But like what? I don't think you said you didn't play the BioShocks, or you did play the BioShocks, but like, go pick up the BioShocks. Like,
I never played BioShock.
And it's like, you get cheap copies of
those
BioShock 1, 2.
Those are so easy to find
for like 360.
And that's the thing too, is like, because like it's become a thing now for like me. It's like, let me fill in my missing game knowledge at this point, because a lot of these games were very popular. So it's really easy to find copies of these games for super cheap, like $5-10. You know what I mean?
Like you don't need to go get like the super old
You don't have to find the gems every time. Like and like lucky for me, I've already kind of found my gems. Like the Mega Man game, the Mega Man Legends games, the Tron Bond game was like that was my like my Great White Buffalo. That was a hard one. That was the find for me.
I've never heard that term. It's Great White Whale, I believe.
Great White Buffalo is from Hot Tub Time Machine. That's why. And then they awkwardly just start whispering it, and I was like, "What the hell is happening?" But yeah, like so, like.
Or last time we went out, they had the one store had just gotten a trade in, like a bunch of like just regular stuff, and then they had a copy of Shantae, the actual Shantae. Oh
yeah, the original, the Game Boy.
For what, Game Boy Color?
Game Boy Color, yeah, I think it was. And,
and you were like, "Is that like the actual thing or the limited run?"
Yeah,
no, this is.
That's why I had to immediately ask, like, is that original or is that the cheaper version that I can? It's still expensive. Like the limited run's still pricey, but I was like, that's original game. I was like,
he was like,
Jesus.
the guy traded in just like a bunch of regular like Xbox and PlayStation stuff, and then had this
in the box.
Wasn't
sure what it was,
and then it's like, is that Shantae?
Yeah, that's an absolute gem. It's like, where the hell are you also gonna find this? And I'm just like. The guy was like, "Hey man, like it's safe.
It's for sale.
If your friend jumps in with you, it's only $300 each." I'm like, "Hey Buffa, you trying to hop in on this game?" I don't know if I'm committed to that point where I have to drag somebody in with me to to commit to a game kind of thing. But like in terms of like recently I've been trying to figure out like games that I missed out on, or I think games that like I watched Gabe play and I was interested in them. But he would only borrow them for the weekend. Because, again, there's a lot of the games that Gabe would play, he would, like, borrow from GameStop over the weekend kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, or, like, buy them, bang through it in, like, a week and then sell it back. And, like, I would never get a chance to play them kind of thing. You know what I mean? So that's, like, the BioShock games. The Mass Effect games is a big thing that I completely missed.
Or, like, I didn't have a PS3, so I didn't play, like, the Infamouses and, like a lot of the PS3 exclusives.
Yeah.
That's why I got a PS4. I needed to play The Last of Us.
Okay, yeah, I get you. The Infamous is a fun game. Like, it really is. Like,
there's like a whole generation I missed because it's like, on Xbox 360, I was mostly just playing like Halos and Gears of War and stuff like that.
And that's another thing too. Actually, with the Infamous thing, you just jogged my memory. There are the conversations we mentioned it a little bit before, but like the conversations we get into over here, or we get into with the people who work at these places.
Yeah,
because they're nerds. They're like us. You know, they're obviously working at a place that sells retro games.
Yeah, because the store the people are normally friendly, or they'll be like, "Oh, like, are you looking for anything? Are you playing anything lately?" And then like you'll start talking about something, and then it leads into a whole
rabbit hole of something that, for some reason, like I'm really into Japanese fighting games that came out between 2001 through 2004 on like.
And it's like, oh well, have you played blah blah blah?
It's like, no, I haven't. What is this game? And then, you end up finding, oh yeah, so they released only this game physically in Russia. Yeah. And I was like, what? Why? He's like, yeah, but I have one. And I was like, can you even play the damn thing? No, but I have it for my collection. I was like, sure, dude, why not? Like, so we meet some colorful characters during our times when we're hunting for video games, and it's like, again, it's just like it's a community thing. You know what I mean? It's like we find other people who like who are looking for the same games as us. Like surprisingly, sometimes, you know what I mean? Like oh, I remember when I found Mega Man Legends at the one in Clifton.
Yeah.
I had just gotten out of work.
And so you were up there anyway.
I was already up there.
Like,
I was go sit outside of the store for like 2 hours before it opens. Or no.
I think they posted it online, and I messaged you, and I was like, "Oh, they have Mega Man Legends," and then you're like, "Cool, I could stop by after work." You walked in as soon as they opened. You bought like 3 or 4 games, and then the guy who came in after you,
the guy immediately after me was like, "Oh, you got
Mega Man Legends," and he's like, "No, that guy bought it."
And it was funny. He's another Filipino guy, and I was like, "Screw you, I'm the better Filipino now." Yeah, it was like a wild, like, yeah, again, it's like the experience or the community. Like the guy ended up chatting, with me for a little bit, and it was like, yeah, man, it's like, why were you looking for it? He goes, I had a bootleg from the Philippines and I wanted a real one. I was like, same reason I'm buying it for, kind of thing. And I was like, oh wow, look at this. It's like, kind of like again, it's a community. You know what I mean?
Yeah, kinship.
As much as like there are some shitbags in here who are jacking up prices and shit. You know what I mean? But like, for the most part, everyone's pretty good about it. It's a market. I get it.
I feel like most of the workers you see there though aren't like commanding the prices.
No,
it's mostly like
it's the
owner.
market.
Yeah,
it's the market.
You
can't really do a whole lot about it. But what can you do? Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything you wanted to touch upon here that we didn't really bring up earlier during our previous conversation? We kind of covered a good chunk of it. It's like,
yeah,
why we do it.
Like in the comments, like what are you guys collecting?
If you guys collect, if you guys collect anything, let us know. We really appreciate it.
Right? Are you guys more into the digital stuff?
If you guys do digital only, we might even do a poll or a question on there for you guys.
Is there a grail you're looking for?
Yeah, is there a grail for you guys? Are you digital only? Do you do a mix of both? What I do, like, if there's a game that comes out digitally, you'll buy it, then buy it again physically, again to support the developer or whatever. Whatever you guys do, if you guys are interested in this stuff, let us know, because this is something that
it is a community.
It's a community, and it's something that me and Buff are really, really into. So it's like, it'd be cool to find more people to like, to kind of just chat about this with. We experienced a little bit, during conventions and like, going to some of these shops, but it'd be good to hear more people around the world. Basically, we have a bunch of listeners in different countries. I want to hear what your guys' experiences is. But yeah, so I guess that's really it for us. This was, again, I want to bring Buffa back on for another episode, have a proper, like, just kind of one where, he and I can just talk, and I'm not just stealing all the camera time. Or mic time.
He does that in the car too when we're talking.
I can't help it. I talk a lot. I can't shut the fuck up. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Give us a thumbs up, a 5-star rating on any and whatever audio platform you guys are listening to us onto. Follow us
or don't. Tell us how we could be better.
Yeah, that works. That works as well. Leave us a comment on Twitter, Instagram. Again, we have all of our social medias are available, as well as Party XP. Hear from you guys in the next episode. Take care. No, because all you're gonna see is old ladies and old dudes. There's gonna be wrinkly dicks and wrinkly tits. That's all you're gonna see. That might be the out of context clip.